Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar for parents. Tonight, we're going to talk about how to support your child's mental health and recognizing signs and, very importantly, taking the first steps towards mental health for your child. As you all know, on the 10th of October, it was World Mental Health Day. So that's why we started this series off with this topic. You can join us every Monday evening at 7 o'clock for very interesting parent webinars. We would really look forward to see you every Monday evening at 7 o'clock. Let's see what we're going to do tonight. We're going to talk about the symptom recognition and signs to watch out for in your children. We're also going to talk a little bit about what's the difference between behavior issues and mental health concerns. This is very topical, especially for teenagers. So when is it just teenage things and swings and all of those things, or when do we talk about mental health concerns? And then we're also going to talk about the importance of early intervention steps, and then when and how to seek professional help. What will be the relationship between you as a parent and the therapist, what to do and what not to do. And then at the end, I'll give you time to ask me some questions if there are. So let's talk about the symptoms recognition. Early detection is absolutely key. So recognizing signs of mental health struggles at an early stage is really crucial. It's essential to be vigilant and observant, especially to identify when learners may be facing mental health challenges. And then to provide the timely support. We sometimes hope that the problem will go away, and we hope and we wait and we hope. And many times we wait too long. So it's important that we will commit to offer the prompt and appropriate support to those who need it. We are very eager to take our children when there are physical challenges and when they need for any other organ, but the moment when it's for the brain, we hope it will go away. Now, what are the things that we as parents should look out for? I think any change in your child is when you need to be concerned. Any change. You always need to think about why is this change there and how should I react upon this change. So any change in mood or behavior is something that should get you thinking. If your child starts withdrawing socially, when they are not taking part in the circle of friends, when they are not doing what they always did, and then if there's a sudden academic decline, the marks are going downwards, there's a definitely downward spiral, but no one can actually say, why is it like that? Then you should think about it more. When the sleep patterns change is very important. When the appetite changes, if they eat more, if they eat less, anything that changes there. And then if they have frequent physical complaints, headache, backache, tummy ache, muscle ache, any of those complaints. And then if they start expressing feelings of hopelessness, don't see any future, all of those things. And then if they become easily angered or irritable, if the reaction is not in line with what happened, if you see something and you think, but this is not appropriate, then you need to think about why is it like that. And then if there's a persistent sadness, tearfulness, if there are unexplained outbursts, and now this is very difficult because when is it like only like a normal teenager slamming the door, all of that, and when is it something that has something to do with their mental health? And then if there are extreme mood swings, and then for this one is for me very important, if there's a loss of interest in previously enjoyed activities. And then difficulty concentrating or completing tasks. And people always think when children have difficulty with concentration that immediately they think it's ADHD, but anxiety, depression, trauma, all of those can have an effect on a child's ability to concentrate or to complete their tasks. So what is the difference between a behavior issue and a mental health concern? Because it's very significant for parents to distinguish between these things. What are normal behavior issues that you have with your children on a daily basis, and when should you be concerned and bring in a healthcare provider? Because many of these challenges that we have with children are part of their natural childhood development. So to understand when a behavior is a sign of an underlying mental health issue can really help you to an early intervention and a better outcome for your children. So let's look at common behavior issues that we have. It's important that we recognize that certain behaviors are often a natural part of their growth and maturation. So their maturity, we call them typical childhood behaviors. Now, examples are like tantrums. Young children may express their frustrations through tantrums, which are a normal part of their emotional development. They are a way for children to communicate their feelings when they don't have the words to do so. Biting is one of those things that we always hear a lot about and are concerned all children go through a biting phase. But if it's now a teenager start biting everybody, then this is not part of their typical childhood behavior. And then mood swings. Adolescents, teenagers in particular may experience mood swings as they grapple with their hormones, they grapple with their prefrontal cortex still developing a lot in this phase. And there's lots of fluctuations, and it's also a part of forming their identity. It's a process of self-discovery, and these are normal, challenging behaviors for children. And then defiance is also one. It's not uncommon for children to test their boundaries and to display defiant behavior. This can be a sign of their desire for independence and autonomy, which is a typical aspect of growing up. So when are there potential mental health concerns there? So the signs that go beyond this typical behavior. It includes behaviors that are persistent, intense, and noticeably different from their usual actions. You as a parent will have this gut feeling, this intuition about your child, and you need to trust that intuition. When you feel uneasy, listen to that voice. Because if there's a prolonged sadness or an unexplained tearfulness, then we need to be concerned. If the mood fluctuations are extreme and so extreme that it starts affecting the daily life of you and the family or the friends or people around you. When their behaviors are so disruptive that normal activities and relationships can't carry on. And then withdrawal from any social interactions and activities. And remember, we're talking now about persistent, intense, ongoing, noticeably different from usual actions. And then frequent physical complaints without a clear medical cause. When they start really developing symptoms that it's no one, the doctor says there's nothing wrong, they kind of keep on using it as an excuse for things that they kind of not feel up to do. And then if you hear them expressing thoughts of self-harm or suicide, there are online many of these forums and focus groups where children are expressing in those closed groups their desire for self-harm and suicide. If you pick up that your child are on these groups, then you really need to be concerned. And it happens more than it happened in my own family, where someone was joining this, one of the cousins, and no one would have suspected. So if one of the other people didn't tell us, it would have been very difficult for us to work with. And then the importance of early and accurate recognition. And that's, again, we talk about accurate recognition. That's not something that you as a parent can do. You can only do this with the help of a professional. And it's important that we really look for these things and that we really try to find somebody who can accurately recognize and help you and identify and diagnose if there's something. But these signs that I said earlier are really there just to open your eyes and to be alert. Recognizing signs at an early stage is really a critical factor in ensuring our children's well-being, because when we can identify mental health challenges early, we can provide the right support and interventions when they are most effective. So this timely support can prevent issues from escalating, and that's what we try to do. If we can deal with this early, we can really prevent these issues from escalating. It's much easier to work with play therapy early in a child's life than prolonged therapy later. So because it can have a lasting impact on a child's life if it's not treated, if we really hope that it will go away and it was not treated. So very important, the earlier the better, because that can really lead to improved mental health, better academic performance, and a more positive relationships with their peers, and then obviously setting the stage for a brighter future. Remember, mental health challenges include things like learning challenges like dyscalculia, dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyspraxia, asphyxia. If you can recognize and if you can diagnose these things early, the prognosis and the way to help the children and their performance and their life after that is just so much better. So I think one of the things that prevent us from doing something about it is the stigma around mental health issues in children. One of the excuses people often use is that they really don't want to hang a label around their child's neck. I would rather deal with the label and help the child to overcome this or to live with it and to manage it better than letting them suffer in silence and hoping that it will go away, but it will not go away. So stigma is really something that you can counteract with educating yourself and others. Begin by educating yourself about mental health and common issues that children may face. Knowledge empowers you to challenge these misconceptions. Share what you learn with your family members, friends, and educators to create a supportive network. Sometimes the grandparents say, oh, it's not in our family. They put so much pressure on parents. You need to follow your gut feeling and educate yourself and everyone. Have an open and honest communication with everyone. Open dialogue about emotions and mental health with your children from an early age, where it's okay to talk about mental health, is so beneficiary for our children so that it normalize it, and that's what we would like to achieve. Let children know that it's okay to talk about their feelings and that they won't be judged or criticized for doing so. It's okay for us to feel anything. It's what you do with those things that are what you need to control. So if children are feeling jealous, it's not bad. It's what we do with it that matters. So let them talk about positive and negative emotions and do not judge those negative emotions. Deal with it, talk about it, and say, how do you manage it, and model appropriate behavior to your children. And then avoid negative labels. Refrain from using negative labels or derogatory language when discussing mental health. And that means a lot around the table when you talk about someone else's child. The way that you talk about that mental health will make your child ashamed. It's like standing around the braai and talk about maybe something like gender issues and transgender, and the way that you talk about it will send out a negative message to your child, and it's not okay. And it is okay for you to talk to your child because it will matter when it's your child. So the language that you use about those things can contribute to the stigma or can help to resolve the stigma. And then emphasize the mental health challenges, that the mental health challenges are not a sign of weakness, but it's a common part of the human experience. Many people think that it's something that you can control with willpower. You tell your child, just mind over matter. It's not. It's not. So they need so much more support than that. So it's not a sign of weakness or something that they can control with their minds. They need specialized help, support, and all of that you can give to your child to help them. And then for me, it's important, and especially with other children, to promote empathy and understanding. Teach children to be empathetic and understanding towards peers who may be experiencing mental health challenges. They might need something different in the classroom. They might need some headphones with music to help them to self-regulate. So if your child says, but why can he? Then you need to talk to your child and say their brains work differently, so they need some extra support, and that's how we work with this. And then encourage them to offer support and kindness rather than judgment. Another thing is to challenge stereotypes. I think it's very important that because stereotypes are all born from misconceptions, help them to understand that mental health issues can affect anyone, regardless of age, gender, or background. It can really, it can happen in any part of your life. It can happen because of many reasons. And then seek professional help when needed. Whenever you are concerned about your child, it's better to be safe than sorry. No professional will tell you you wasted your time. They will actually tell you it's a good thing that you came and you made sure that we are giving support. If no support is needed in that point of time, then you have the peace of mind. But I always say, rather get it checked out. Do not think you are neurotic. If your gut feelings say you would like to know what's going on, rather do that. And because this will send a clear message that mental health concerns are treatable and not something to be ashamed of. And then again, lead by example, how you behave towards mental health issues. Your children, you need to model the correct behavior for them. And then children often learn by observing your behavior towards other adults. And that will help us to normalize the mental health conversations. And this will also help children to see that mental health is just as much as a natural topic of conversation than any other issue, political, what's happening on TV, what happens on the streaming service. So it is a natural topic to have with your children. There are some practical tools and strategies that can help you to differentiate between typical childhood behaviors and potential mental health concerns that you can use. One of it is to keep a behavior journal. Write down any behavior things that happens, and if you see a pattern there, and take that journal with when you go and see a therapist. If you want to, if you're concerned, if you see a pattern, maybe it happens in the same time of the day, it happens after something specific, it will really help you to identify trends or changes that kind of give you an idea that there are underlying issues that we need to investigate. Again, consult trusted resources. Do not just Google and see because Google will tell you a lot of things about 99% of them are not from reputable resources. So it's important that you get the right resources online. Good ones that I sometimes use and I recommend to parents are Young Minds. It's youngminds.org.uk. It's a very well-respected UK-based charity site that will really help you to understand mental health issues. They've got a wonderful resources that you can use for whatever. And another one is the Child Mind Institute. They have even a diagnosis tool that gives like a informal assessment of when you need to be concerned or not. It's not a tool that diagnoses, but it's a tool that gives you an indication if you need to do something about this or not, if you have to be concerned. So a wonderful site, it's childmind.org. And these two are really reputable, good sites that you can use if you need good resources. Again, talk to your child's teacher, talk to your child's caregivers. In Kiro, our teachers are really aware of mental health challenges. They are very open to it. So discuss it, don't hide it. Discuss it with your teacher. There are many, many resources within the group where we really, really try our best to help your child. We have accommodations that we can give, we have concessions, and then we also have the Kiro Learner Support Unit for when it's really challenging, then we can also support you. And then again, you need to think about the duration and the intensity. If there is something that's concerning you, remember it's when something is really carrying on, a change that happens, and it's kind of the intensity of it, anything that makes you uneasy. And then seek professional guidance. Do not listen to other people, listen to the professionals. It's always interesting for me when somebody feels that they've kind of had a heartache or something hard is problem or the stomach or whatever, they will go to the best doctor. But if it's something with the mind and the mood and behavior, people are always waiting and they go to the best one and go as soon as you can. So there are many steps for early intervention. It's important because it's really the cornerstone of effective support, and it really has the potential to prevent issues from escalating. And sometimes you can prevent that it has a lasting impact, especially when it comes to trauma, when it comes to learning challenges and all of that. The earlier, the better. Addressing mental health concerns in children requires a very delicate and empathetic approach. So you need the right person to help you. And it involves creating a safe and not judgmental space for parents and children so that they can really have open conversations about their emotions and experiences. So when and how to seek help. So professional intervention plays a really important role in addressing mental health concerns in children. It provides specialized support and expertise that can make a significant difference in your child's well-being. While parental support is essential, there are instances where seeking professional help becomes necessary, important, and the only way forward. So when to seek help? When these symptoms are persistent, when a child exhibits persistent and severe symptoms of any distress or emotional turmoil that significantly impact their daily life, such as persistent sadness, persistent anxiety, or very visible changes in their behavior that's so out of character. When you have safety concerns, if you really are concerned about your child's safety, if you pick up self-harm, maybe you pick up signs of suicide or any behavior, maybe engaging in very, very risky behaviors. And if there's a decline in their functioning, so like their academic performance, there's a decline in their social interaction, or even their daily functioning is noticeably declining due to mental health issues. And then we need to look out for those sudden and severe changes, especially in behavior, mood, and personality. If your really happy-go-lucky child suddenly becomes this broody child, then you really need to think about why is it like that. If there is any form of withdrawal, and then if you know about any signs of trauma, sometimes we know about the traumatic event, but also remember for children, trauma is so different for than parents. To give you an example, when you move houses, when you move from one city to another city, it might be traumatic for you, but for your children, it might even be more traumatic. Sometimes when I talk to parents and I say, well, did anything traumatic happen? They always say, no, nothing happened. And then if I say, but maybe did you get a new car? Yes, we did get a new car. Now that can be very traumatic because children find a safety in the things that they know. Did mommy go back to work maybe? So there are many things that are not trauma related for parents, but children can really experience as some trauma. And this is really, if we don't work with this, it can develop into post-traumatic stress disorder for them. And then they can get nightmares or anxiety or bedwetting. And there are many things that will happen that will tell us that there is something underlying that we need to deal with. Again, substance use, that's always a red flag. There you have to act immediately. Even if they say they will never do it again, you always have to act immediately. A lack of improvement if you maybe try to help and nothing helped, and because many times we are, and with good reason, we try to help, but if you don't see any improvement, you need to get help. And then if many people are telling you that they are concerned, they looked at your child and maybe they experience it. So we are so protective, and sometimes we will act and say, but it has nothing to do with you. Rather hear what they say and say thank you, and then you can decide if there's any substance in it or not. And then again, suicidal thoughts and actions that you never wait for, you act immediately. There are different types of mental one you can use, and always go for the best. So you've got psychologists, you've got psychiatrists, and remember you get very different kinds of psychologists and different kinds of psychiatrists. You get psychiatrists that focus on children. You get psychiatrists who has a special interest in children. You get children psychiatrists. So you need to find out if this one is the best one for you. The same with psychologists. There are many different ways that psychologists work, and you need to make sure that you are comfortable with the way they work. The same with therapists, and then your counselors. And many of our schools have counselors that are usually there to provide guidance and support, especially for emotional and psychological challenges at our schools. So we are really privileged in Curro that we have very good counselors at most of our schools. And then I think choosing the right expert is where you as a parent can really make a difference. So you need to select the right mental health expert for your child, because it's a crucial decision. And there are many things that you need to check. Always make sure about the qualifications. People think it's neurotic, but always make sure that they are qualified for what they do. Experience, look for people that are really experienced and they know about the specific challenges that your child is facing. Make sure you understand the therapeutic approach that this person is using, and that it aligns with your child's needs and preferences. And you are allowed to ask this. Look for compatibility. You can ask other people, how well does this person relate with teens? You know, those things. Just make sure that there's a good chance for compatibility. And then how to approach this topic now with your child, because the conversation about mental health can really be a sensitive matter. And here's some strategies you can do. Always important, choose the right time. I always say when you choose the time, it's like a waltz with your child. If you're not in a rhythm with this conversation, rather abort the conversation and come back later. But it should be like a waltz. It should be easy, so that you can really talk with the child without distractions. You need to be in the same rhythm, on the same page, and it needs to be a safe space, non-judgmental, where your child can then also participate in this. Be calm and reassuring. Although most parents feel totally out of their depth, you sometimes feel so powerless. You really would just like the best for your child. But try and be as calm and reassuring as you can. And then use open-ended questions when you start talking about this, because you would like your child to start sharing with you about where we are at this point, because you would like to come up with a solution. You want them to feel safe. So maybe something like, how have you been feeling lately? And use some active listening, give them your full attention, repeat what they say, validate their feelings without judgment. You can tell them it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to be this. I'm so glad that you shared with me. And just do not start sharing about all your life troubles. Rather keep on talking with the child. And then so you need to talk to them about professional help. So you need to normalize it. They mustn't feel that they are now really letting the family down. They become now a problem child. Normalize it. Just share information, age-appropriate information to the best of your ability. And what to expect during your first visit is usually something that they are quite anxious about. Emphasize your support, that you are there with them, you will be there with them. And then for me, I think parents are always concerned, but especially if you've never had any mental health challenge in your family, what will happen now at the first appointment when you visit your psychologist? Because they can be quite, I would say, intimidating, especially people can also be very anxious. So usually it starts off with the introduction. The session typically begins with your child to get to know the professional and vice versa. All professionals have different techniques for this. The therapist will also explain to the child confidentiality, the limitations about that. Because we sometimes talk to children, we say, whatever you're telling me will never leave this room. There are certain things you can't keep that up, because if they tell you about abuse, if they tell you about physical damage, bullying, all those things, then you can't keep that promise that it will never leave the room. So The therapist will also say if it's something about self-harm, if it's something where their lives are in danger, when other people's lives are in danger, then they have to report it. If it's something about sexual abuse, then they have to do something about it so that the child will understand the limitations of the confidentiality. Then there will usually be a form of assessment. That's usually in the form of questions, depending on what kind of therapy, if it is play therapy is. If it's play therapy, there will be lots of playing, and the therapist will then determine and try to gather as much information as possible about the child. And then at some point there will be a setting of goals to see what they can achieve. And then duration is usually about 45 to 60 minutes. And then the whole idea is for the child to be comfortable, to see if they click and are compatible with the therapist. So because remember, it's for the therapist also new, so they need to see if they can work together. So also many times when it comes to children, the first contact session will only be with the parents or the guardians or the caregivers. So it's important for you maybe then also to prepare some questions. You need to think about what you would like to discuss. What did you observe? How did you experience the change in your child? What are you concerned about? So think a little bit about it, because the therapist will literally ask you, but you can also prepare your questions that you have for the therapist and ask those questions. The therapist is used to it, so they will then try to explain their approach to therapy and also their expected outcomes. And then encourage your child then also to share what they feel comfortable with discussing during the session. Remind them that it's a safe space, they can discuss whatever. So it's important that they need to feel that they are allowed to talk about, and again, they are going to talk about you. So just live with it. They are going to talk about you. So it is part, because you are a big, important part of their lives. I think it's important for us to think about the therapist-parent relationship and then also the boundaries. It's important for us to understand this relationship, because before you have therapy, it was you and your child, it was family and your child, but suddenly there's now another adult in this parenting kind of relationship, and it's essential aspect of this process that you will understand this collaboration and this mutual support that you have with this therapist. It's important that you will understand the confidentiality, which is important during these sessions, and that the therapist will really protect your child's confidentiality. And then again, the exceptions, as I explained before. It's important that there's effective communication from both sides. So you need to communicate with the therapist, but the therapist will also communicate with you. In my experience, therapists usually communicate with you when they are concerned, and many times after a few sessions, like 3 or 4 sessions, there might be a family meeting where they give feedback. But we also need to give the therapist time to get to know your child. They can't just tell you after the first session, this is what's wrong with your child, or this is what we need to work with, this is the challenge that I know you're anxious to know what we're going to do, but it takes time. So you need to know how to wait for whatever, and you need to trust the therapist with their process. You will get regular updates and feedback, and if you don't, you are more than entitled to ask. So ask after a few sessions, how's it going, if there's nothing scheduled, or schedule from your side a feedback session with the therapist, so that you can get updated. Again, respect the boundaries, especially the professional boundaries and because remember, the therapist is focused on your child's well-being, because the child is the primary client of this of the therapist, and that's what they're going to work with. And then again, support your child's growth. You'll see as the therapy goes on, some progress will be made, and it's important that you know what role you should play, how you should respond to it, and get your guidance from your parent, your therapist with that. And remember, it is a collaborative approach. So if you badmouth your therapist because you are frustrated because you haven't had any feedback, you are just going to jeopardize the process. The do's: do be open and honest, communicate, have open lines of communication with the therapist, be supportive, and respect the privacy. Respect your child's privacy in that safe space. So avoid probing for details of what they have discussed in that therapy session. I know we would like to know, and we are so curious about what they are going to say and what they experience and all of that, but do respect the therapy process and the safe space that the therapist will create. And then follow the recommendations and all the ideas and the tips and the suggestions that the therapists are suggesting for you. And then attend the family sessions. Make a point of it to attend it. And if all the parents and guardians can do it, so much better for the child. The don'ts: don't intrude on privacy. Avoid preying onto your child's therapy sessions or demanding to know what was discussed. Allow your child to share what they are comfortable with. And don't overwhelm them with questions, because after the session, you want to know. So avoid bombarding your child with questions about the therapy. Let them share it at their own pace. Don't judge or criticize. Sometimes we would really like the therapist to make more progress quicker, and then you kind of in a weak moment will say something about that. Do not do that. Don't dismiss your child's feelings or tell them to snap out of it. I know we sometimes get frustrated and we really would like to see results, but you need to, my dad always say, you need to know how to wait. And when it comes to therapy, you need to know how to wait. And then don't expect quick fixes. This is a long-term process, depending on the problem. So you need to be patient and don't blame yourself. Don't blame yourself for your child's challenges. Mental health issues can arise from various factors. And again, seeking help is a very positive step forward. So what is your level of interaction with your child's therapist? There will be an initial consultation where the therapist will ask you lots of questions about your child. There will be some ongoing communication depending on the methodology and the approach of the therapist and the way they work. Some of them wait for 8 or 9 sessions. So you can ask that in the initial consultation, when will you get some feedback, and be open to sharing your observations. And if you notice anything while this process is going, pop your therapist an email. They always welcome any feedback or any happenings that they need to know of. Again, privacy boundaries are so important. And then again, be involved in the treatment planning, and then support the goals of the therapist. Make sure you know what the goals are, and then trust your therapist's expertise. Don't do therapist hopping. Choose a therapist if the child, and then stick to your therapist at least for a long time to see, because you need to trust the process. Don't do therapy hopping. And then ask the therapist if you've got any concerns about the treatment plan. All therapists really welcome any questions, and if you need some clarification or guidance, ask. That's the and then people always want to know, if I pick up my child, what should I communicate with my child? So again, as I said, respect the privacy. It's crucial to respect your child's privacy. Therapy sessions are a safe space for them to express their thoughts and feelings without fear or judgments. And if you now really start pressurizing your child, then you're going to jeopardize that feelings of being in a safe space. And then if you want to know, ask open-ended questions, and then maybe they will share with you at their own pace if they are ready with it. Things like, how did your session with your therapist go today, is a good question to ask. If you get an answer, great. If not, then just leave it. Is there anything that you'd like to talk about your session? And if you don't get an answer on that, just leave it. Sometimes you just need to wait, and they will initiate and start telling you, and then you need to listen And I usually give not a lot of feedback. I just listen and affirm that I'm so glad that they talk about it. I'm so glad that you feel safe in that space that you can talk about it. Remember, I really would like you to talk about anything with your therapist. And then, as I said, encourage expression, encourage them and really reward them if they can share their feelings and thoughts by telling them that it's okay and that you really support them. Be a good listener and offer support. And then again, we would like to normalize therapy. It's important to think about age-appropriate communication, especially for children. At certain things are just not appropriate at certain ages. Attend your family sessions. It's really part of the process. Very important. Even if you are divorced, try to get all the parents there because it's really, really important. Trust your therapist's guidance. Respect the boundaries, respect the boundaries, respect the boundaries, and avoid pushing for details that no one may be ready to disclose, even your therapist. Are there any questions? Thank you so much for attending. You are welcome to pose any questions in the chat. If I would just need to go and check it now. I just want to see if there are any questions there. So we've got a question here. How much are the services? It depending on the kind of therapy. So all therapists ask different prices. So you are more than welcome to ask what is the going rate for a consultation. Sometimes the therapist will ask more for the first consultation. And then for ongoing. So it depends. It really depends. Some medical aids will cover it. Other medical aids will not. Always beware if you put a prescribed minimum benefit on your child. Remember, it goes with that child for life. So if you have to and you can't afford anything else, it's a good route to go to get the necessary therapy. But remember, they will always have that thing for life. Any other questions that you have? Seems like there are no questions. Then I just would like to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. Remember, next Monday we have another webinar. Just keep an eye on the social media and they will publish the topic. And I look forward to see you next week, Monday at 7 o'clock again. And if you have children that are younger, remember you can also tune in on Wednesday evenings at the same time at 7 o'clock. Then we have early childhood development for the younger children, specific parent webinars for them. And this Wednesday, we're going to talk about school readiness. So if you have a little one or know about somebody who has, and you're not sure if they are ready for school, this talk will be with Sam Rotario. She's a well-experienced education psychologist, and we're going to talk about school readiness this coming Wednesday at 7 o'clock, specifically designed for parents. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening and hope